So what do you think? Should we paint a picture tonight? G'day. I'm Paul Lyons. I'm from paintings.nz, and during the New Zealand lockdown period, which started out to be 4 weeks and has been extended for another week, I've been painting one picture every day. This is picture number 33. I'm astonished that the numbers seem to have been accumulating, growing as much as they have, but nevertheless this is picture number 33. Last night when I was painting picture number 32 I claimed it was picture number 31 because I'm just not keeping pace with the number of paintings, the number of days. Anyway, tonight's painting is going to be of the Southern Alps in the South Island of New Zealand. It's based on a photograph that I took while flying over the Alps, looking up. Oh, I can't tell you what river it was that we were looking up, but there's big ridges on either side with bits of snow-capped areas in the well, basically in the little valleys that there are at the tops of the hills, and it's quite rugged, very rugged country. In fact, you wouldn't want to build a house there. I don't think I'm going to try to reproduce the scene exactly. I mean, I could try and do a portrait of it, but it's very complicated, and I don't think that it's necessarily beneficial to the painting to do that. So it's going to be an approximation. So we'll start at the top, which is basically where I often start, and just see how it goes. So sky at the top. This is a brush that I was keeping clean last night. I was painting a very, very dark sky, and I did that in about 4 separate washes, and in between one wash and the next I would wet the surface of the painting with this brush. So this brush has picked up a little bit of the blue from the very, very dark sky, which is why now that I'm putting some water down, it's just got a little smidgen of colour in it, but since it's going to be a blue sky anyway, that's not a problem. Ooh, there's a bit of colour creeping into it, which is not a problem also. Quite wet. Alright, so we want to make the sky blue. So I think perhaps we'll... ooh, that's very dark. Maybe I don't want it quite as dark as that. Maybe we'll take the radical step of making the sky blue by using some blue paint. Seem like a reasonable idea to you? Let's spread that round a bit. This doesn't seem to have got as wet as I was hoping it would. In spite of the fairly generous amount, I thought it was fairly generous amount of water I sprayed all over it. Maybe it's not the fact that the paper isn't very wet, but that the brush isn't very wet, so that's more intense, isn't it? And spreading a bit more. Odd little splots of blue paint going in various places. Oh, let's take it down and then do a bit of cloud edge with the actually I have a flat bottom to the clouds, I think. So you get a very sort of edgy effect from the folds in the cloth. But no, that's one way that a cloud might evolve. One time in 100 million, maybe. But I was listening to somebody on a YouTube video the other day saying, "Oh, I don't ever like clouds that are blotted out with cloth. I can always tell." And I thought, well, okay, fine. It's like saying that I don't like paintings that are painted with a brush. I can always tell. So let's put a bit of structure into those clouds. I think I might find a brush that hasn't got a whole lot of gunk in it and just use that to wet the clouds. Now that was going to be a flat bottomed cloud and it's ended up having a different shape to it. Shadows in the clouds where the water vapour is thicker. And trying to use the water to soften the edges of those shadows. So that's maybe taken the clouds a bit further down than I meant to actually. But, well, as I said, it's not going to be a totally literal interpretation of the scene. Might just soften that edge off a bit, and this one. Try and put some cleaner water on there. Okie doke. That's probably done enough cloud painting. So now the idea is that the tops of the hills, although it's probably a bit bluer than I want, so I might just put off some of that blue paint towards the top there, but that the blue of the sky is sort of carried on into the tops of the hills because, well, they've got snow on them and they're reflecting the sky colour. So now I've taken off hasn't sort of evened it out quite as much as I wanted. Let's put some blue back. We'll try and make it a bit more even across the sky. Alright, that'll probably work out okay as long as I don't get blooms, which I suspect I'm about to. Perhaps I should dry it before they get too awful. Alright, so yes, where I'd sprayed water for the flat brush, it was eating back into the top of the painting there. I see I've got flow back up there as well, but we'll worry about that later on if it seems particularly annoying. So now the idea is that we're going to try to produce some sort of semblance of the shape of these hills without copying them exactly. So I'm going to try using the edge of my credit card to delineate the tops of the hill, well, the whole of the thing really, I suppose it's going to end up being. So particularly towards the tops, the hills are the rocks are very blue. And the snow also is very blue. Well, is blue, pale blue. So we get this blue on blue. It's maybe going a little bit too far in the direction of blue at the moment. So let's put some dark in there just to I suspect that maybe I'll rack you off in the distance there. It's a bit difficult to be sure. And when I say it's Aoraki in the distance, what I mean is that the image that I have in my photograph is Aoraki. I'm not actually trying to produce that exactly, although the credit card is able to produce more accurate detail than you might imagine if you are prepared to spend time trying to paint a portrait of something that's quite detailed. But that's not my goal this evening. I'm going to try to just, well, having just said that, I sort of seem to be looking at the photograph and looking down at the painting and looking at the photograph and looking down at the painting, but maybe it'll bear a slight resemblance to the original. And I guess the idea is that I'm after the general types of shapes rather than the actual shapes themselves. So if something ends up bigger than it should or in a different place from where it really is, that's not a big deal. So these are quite dark areas, quite dark rocks. Maybe I should get some quite dark paint then. You think that would make a useful contribution to quite dark rocks? Because at the moment they're coming out as sort of mid-colour, aren't they? And you can see that it's dark paint that's being used, but it's not actually producing dark areas on the ooh. I don't want them fading off into the distance. I don't want these ones to be too heavily dark. There's a lot of complicated rockery up there that I don't want to reproduce exactly. Oops. So that's the sort of shapes that we get on one side of the valley, and then we've got, so this side of the valley is darker, so I guess the light is coming from that side, and that's what the clouds show as well. So the other side of the valley is not quite as dark. I suspect that I'll need to lighten the paint in order to produce lighter colours. So there's a bit of blue, then we're getting up towards the skyline or the distant horizon type rocks up here. Doesn't seem to be any blue in that at all, does there? So rocks and blue and just a general set of shapes up there. I'll put this photograph into my photo editing software and try to analyse the colours a bit, because I thought the colours that I haven't shown yet, which are the colours in this region here, I couldn't quite work out what they were. According to the software, they're sort of rusty red. And the colours that I'm doing at the moment are blue, heavily blue, and it just doesn't look like that to me. So, I mean, I'm going to attempt to do something like that, but well, how it turns out I don't know. Alright, so in addition to this sort of blue band at the top and these dark rocks and this reddish colour, there's also a whole lot of of pale grey, which I assume is scree. And I don't know what the red is, whether it's some underlying rock or quite a... No, I just can't quite work it out. But might try doing the whole area in this sort of pale grey, and then putting the reddish colour over as a separate wash. Instead of, I was thinking of doing the whole thing with the credit card, but probably work as two separate applications. Which I think means leaving. There's a bit here where it just looks as though the same rock formation sort of goes down one side and up the other. So what I'll do, I think, is dry it and then put a wash over with the brush, and then go back to the credit card for the russet coloured area. So here we go, drying. Oh, well, that was quite convenient. While I was drying the painting, I happened to look up at the camera and saw that it had 1 minute left of its 29-minute recording length left, so I managed to turn it off and turn it on again. Hopefully that will allow you to continue watching without interruption from the camera deciding to turn itself off. So now we're going to move on to this light grey colour, which is essentially everywhere on the painting. Lighter than that. Not as blue as that. I don't want it to be blue. Unblue it a little bit. So there's odd bits and pieces of snow in various pockets. It's gone very dark, isn't it? Let's see if we can mitigate that to some extent with the addition of water. And there's a river running down the middle. We'll just leave that white for the moment and see. It gets broader as it gets towards the front of the painting. So we've got a certain amount of colour running, which I'm not terribly keen on, but let's get the river going sideways. Rivers go sideways. Alright, so having introduced really rather a lot of darkish paint, let's take some of it away. So that gives us an interesting variegated effect. We might just put some more back in here, very carefully, trying not to lift the colour underneath. But remember, this is the darker side of the valley, so we'll put that in and then take it off again. And you can see that, filthy though the cloth is, it still works quite well to remove paint. Okay, so that gives us darkened area. There's a whole basin up there that reads as snow, which is not realistic, but kind of like it, so I think I might just leave it there. I might also make it more obvious by darkening nearby region. And again, put it in, take it out. So that's darkened that area. So now we're getting some fairly dark areas, but some of these rocks have been decreased in their effect. I might dry that, see how it dries, and then possibly modify the black rocks. Possibly not. So see you in a minute. All right, we're back again. I've dried off the grey wash that I added. As I said, just put a bit more dark into some of these rocks on the left, so we've got some variation. It's a bit more drying necessary before we get backgrounds at the bottom here. And you'll see that I was drying the back of the painting, drying this because that's the reservoir of water that's seeping up and forming these backgrounds. It's sitting there and just sucking itself back into the half-dry paint. All right. So I was going to knock that piece of snow, which is really a bit of a distraction on the edge there, out. So just get rid of it. Now, there's odds and ends of rock going down into the valley, which help to give the impression of the slope of the valley. So again, I'm not trying to do a portrait, but where the original gives me hints about shape, I'd be a fool not to take them. Right. So I think that'll do for that aspect of the painting. So now I might just try and strengthen up something around here. I feel as though we need a bit of cool. Nice piece of rock over here. I think we need something here that has a slightly more different shape to it. Because this is, and again I'm doing more copying of the actual shape than I kind of intended to. But it's a case of learning what the natural formation is like. And one way to learn what the natural formation is like, to actually draw it, or actually paint it, rather than just some sort of vague impression of it that doesn't look convincing. So let's see if that looks a bit more convincing than it did before. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, I don't know. But I feel that I'm going to leave it at that stage. So now this strange, well, surprising to me at least, rusty coloured rock that gravel, I don't know, I really don't know what it is. Scree? I suppose it could be I suppose it could be a plant life, a life form. Again, trying to pick up on the shape of the area. Shape of the slopes. With the way I sweep the credit card up. Kind of losing some of those rocks there. I was so careful to try and produce, aren't I? Never mind. Oomph into these rocks here. See if we can move this colour up there a little bit, just to give a bit of variation. Oakley doke. Don't know whether that's a good idea or not, especially because it's so close to the frame. Try and introduce a different shape there. Ah well, it's done now. So we've got a few edges here which we can pick out now and try to use as things to three-dimensionalise the structure. Just try to introduce a bit of contrast. Not a lot, I have to say. Now, on the other side, nice ridges down towards the front of the painting here. That involve bands. There's evidence of some water flowing down some of those areas there. I haven't quite managed to produce the effect that I wanted down here because I wanted there to be no, it's not working either. I wanted there to be gaps between those pieces of paint, but there aren't. Never mind. Something like these, but possibly thinner. And see if we can have something for the other side, but of course we can't see it to the same extent, so it's much thinner. Let it go all the way down to the river. There's a fair amount of stuff going all the way down to the river here. How are you getting on? 15 minutes left, that's all right. That colour does correspond to plant growth. It's probably highly inaccurate to bring it up to where the snow is, but well, I'm ignorant, so I suppose it's forgivable for somebody to create the occasional solecism in pursuit of art. Ooh, didn't mean to do that. It's too big and too dark. No, that's getting on towards what I was looking for. So we can do something to improve this. I don't know whether it's going to help or not, but another ridge tone. I'm just messing around, aren't I, at the moment? I'm not really concentrating on what I should be doing. Okay. Given this is closer to the viewer, we can put in a bit more detail, or suggestion of detail. It's not really detail. We're not doing any detail at all with the credit card, are we? Alright, now, the only other thing to do, I think, is to colour in the river. So the river is not actually particularly wet. The river is gravel. So we have mostly pale grey. And here I have picked up a brush that's full of green gunge. Maybe I've got another narrow than that one's got paint in it. That looks as that might be clean. So let's again pick up this colour, and I don't want it to be blue, so I'll try to counterbalance the blue with orange. I think it's turning it green, isn't it? So maybe a tiny bit more red. God knows what colour that is. I just can't really see. Now the river, as I said, is mostly gravel, but there is in fact a bit of silver in the original, more or less there in the river, which I've managed to spill some paint in, so I'm going to leave the silver up there instead and do my... Oh, it's just, yeah, I can't tell what colour that is, but I don't like it. Try the diluting. So just the merest hint of silver up in that region there. And we'll lighten that. So it's lightened it down there, hasn't lightened it here, but that's okay. And having lightened it, now, because there's sort of evidence of braiding in the channel, so it's not it's not water that we're seeing, but it's channels that have been dug in the dug out. That's the wrong word to use, really, isn't it? But have been eroded away into the gravel of the river. But I feel that I've kind of reached the have a look at it stage in this painting. Don't know that I really like that up there quite so much anymore. So let's go back to the credit card. You did all the thing like there with a credit card. Why not use it now? And it's got more of a feeling of rough, rocky terrain now, I think. Okay, stop and look and come back if there's anything that is glaringly obvious. Okay, so I took out some of the paint here, which has lightened it up and covered over the snow there a little bit, which has blended a bit more with the surroundings. And then took a step back and looked at it again. And I think that region is okay, but then I was distracted by the sky, which has this sort of caterpillar of clouds going across here. And I don't know quite well. I'm going to take a big risk, I think, and try to blot out some of the sky, which is possibly a very dangerous thing to try doing, but Needs must when the devil drives, I think is the phrase, isn't it? And the devil's on the detail, and there's too much detail in the sky. So that kind of worked out as a metaphor, did it? Do you think? So let's see if we can just de-emphasise all of this. Never done this before, so wish me luck. And since I happen to have a piece of clean paper here, I'll try to lift out that sky colour. The kitchen stuff. So that's left me with some very compromised clouds. So we'll try to deal with those, but I suspect that will be completely unsuccessful. But we'll give it a go. Oh, I was so pleased with these when I was doing them. They looked as though they were going to turn out really nicely, but oh well. That's the way things go sometimes. And no doubt people will be saying, oh, you're just making it worse and worse and worse, and I suspect that I am. And I suspect they're right. But hey, this is 425 grams per square centimetre, this paper. It's good, sturdy stuff. We can abuse it if we want to, without fear that it's going to disintegrate on us. The kitchen towel is not 425 grams per square centimetre, per square metre, and that is certainly disintegrating. But so. Kind of trying to lift the surface of the paper off, just to get down underneath the place where the pigment is. It's almost working. I mean, the other thing I can do, of course, is to sand it, let it dry, and sand it. But this is sort of a wet sanding process, I suppose. Yeah, aside from that splodge there, just see if I can do something with or about. Choose your own preposition. Well, we no longer have quite such a caterpillar going across the sky. See if I can get a bit of blue from there to move. It's just that I don't know, because I've still got a long straight stretch It would be nice if there was something to interrupt that. So let's interrupt that with something. So yes, I'm starting to lift off the surface of the watercolour paper. Just working through the pigment layer. Slightly softer clouds now. I don't know whether I want to do something with that or not, because I've got this over here as well to deal with. Oh, let's see if we can do something in terms of whiter. Cloud up there, and it's just gone grey and miserable. So I'll leave that, I think. Actually, looking at it in the camera monitor, it doesn't look too bad. I have to say that when I photograph the paintings, they never look the same. I can never make them look the same as they do in reality. They're always harsher, I suppose it would be. I remember when I first started painting also that, or I first started looking at videos of people doing their paintings, and having seen in various films and television shows the way that people treat paintings in that's gone soft and mushy. The way that people treat paintings in galleries and museums and so on, you know, with white gloves and so forth. That I was astonished by the degree of contact that artists had with the surface of their paintings. You know, they're not treating them with white cotton gloves at the stage of producing the artwork. And you can see I'm certainly not treating the painting with a great deal of respect for its physical surface at the moment. Let's pull a bit of white out of the blue. Don't want to go through too far. Stop and look first time, I think. Still think we could maybe get something out of there, but I think I'm going to have to wait for it to dry. Or maybe I'll dry it and then try to clean it up a little bit. Just a little bit of removing of surface fibres is what I want to do without just wholesale ripping the top surface of the painting off. That might just about do it. Alright, as I said, time for me to go and have a look at it and get back to you when I have done so. Sorry, that's what it looks like at the moment. That. Welcome back again. So I've just spent a few minutes sanding some of these clouds to get back to the white with a little bit more precision than I was achieving with the sandpaper. Sorry, with the paper towel. And I think that's just enough to make the clouds look a little bit more random and a little bit less distracting. So I think that's just about okay at this point. So, thank you for your attention. Sounds as I'm talking to one of my old classes. Thank you for spending the evening with me, helping me with this painting. And we'll see you tomorrow night for what I hope is the last lockdown painting. Or actually, I wonder if this is the last one. Because, yeah, the lockdown finishes at 12:59 tomorrow night. And I wouldn't be starting the next painting until the early hours of the morning. So this is, in fact, I think, the last of the Lyons on lockdown paintings. At least, unless we have another lockdown, which I hope we don't. So, good night, and it's been interesting, good fun. Bye bye.